Hello, everyone. Nice to have you here. Thank you very much. My name is Gibson Nascimento. I'd like to, first of all, thanks everybody for joining us in this nice project that Sensedia is launching today. It's called Sensedia Jam Sessions, and as the name says, it's an actual jam session. It's a conversation. In the format of this project, it's basically to bring people to talk about APIs, to talk about opportunities, to talk about what we're doing with APIs. Um, so if I can say something, do follow our LinkedIn page. We will be publishing this, of course, this session, but also the calendar for the next sessions we are organizing as well. And today we have a very honored guest here, our to run our first session, Eric Broda. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Good to be
I
here.
also
Thank you.
Great, really good to have you here. And with me, I also have David Roldán. And just a quick round of introductions. My name is Gibson Nascimento. I am the head of solutions for the EMEA region at Sensedia. And yeah, I'm actually giving the word to our participants. Eric, please, quick intro from yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Gibson. My name's Eric Broda. I run a small boutique consulting company. I focus on kind of three things: data mesh, event management, and of course, for this session, APIs. I have built API platforms at a number of very large North American banks and insurance companies, as well as payment companies. So hopefully, I have a little bit to contribute on this discussion on API first.
Pretty sure you have, pretty sure. David, please, you're on mute.
David, I'm a senior solutions architect at Sensedia. I'm the API strategist and digital transformation expert. And as you know, I try to guide our customers and work together with them their way on their digital journey. I'm very happy to be here.
Great. And thank you very much, David, for joining us today as well. And just for the audience, please feel free to interact with us if you have any question. This is an actual conversation. It's not an interview. We are having a very good and open conversation here. And if you do have questions, we are more than happy to take those and discuss here as well. Yeah, I think that for our agenda of the day, we are going to be discussing API first companies. So why companies adopt this standard, what exactly that is, and what are the benefits, what are the industries that are adopting this new, not new, but this approach, if I could say like that. And I would like to ask a question to you, Eric. So you said you're running this boutique of very specialized services, right? So what is an API first company? First of all, just to start off.
Yeah, sure, Gibson. First off, I think for this audience, everybody knows what an API is. APIs are application programming interfaces. And I've been involved in APIs for probably give or take 20 years. However, APIs have advanced quite significantly in the last little while. Previously, as probably many of you know, most companies would build what we'd call monolithic applications. I do a lot of work in the banking industry. It's quite common, at least a number of years ago, where a banking application will be composed of several million lines of code. And as you can imagine, very difficult to change, very difficult to keep up to date, and it can be very expensive. Today, companies are using a new software architecture, and effectively what they're doing is they're building, instead of monolithic applications, they're building applications out of small pieces of code. And those pieces of code are typically called APIs. And when I say APIs, it tends to be a little bit of an overused term, but an API is the contract, and it's usually implemented in a microservice. So today, many companies are approaching software architecture very differently and building big applications, but out of small parts. Effectively, these parts, you can look at them as almost as Lego building blocks. These are building blocks that can be assembled together to make just about anything. Now, an API first company is a company that actually prioritizes the use of APIs. And when I say prioritize the use of APIs, what they do is they actually not only build the APIs internally, but they build them for external consumption and they make them available for external consumption. And that's what it means to be API first. It means that you are prioritizing the way you go to market using APIs. So if you think about that in this sense, APIs are fundamental to the digital ecosystem. If you want to be a participant in the digital ecosystem, you have to think API first. So today we see suppliers use APIs to connect to manufacturers. We see banks, especially coming from North America here, we're just now starting to see open banking take hold. Whereas in Europe, I think it's been out there for a while. Banks use APIs to enable open banking and to enable open finance. Even governments are now using APIs to provide access to public data and services. And of course, what I see here in North America, health companies are using APIs to share data with doctors and insurance companies, for example. So really, as I said, is an API first company is a company that goes to market with APIs first. And obviously, they do this for a number of different reasons. Agility, they can respond quicker to market conditions, drive innovation. Speed, I've seen in some of the organizations I've worked with, they're able to deliver products to market twice as fast and at 40% reduced cost. So what I see out in the marketplace is more and more companies are moving towards this API first approach because it, quite frankly, just makes sense. Now, let me just ask David, I know you're involved in this space quite a bit too, obviously, but what are the common characteristics that you see of an API first company?
Well, in my opinion, an API first company should answer yes to the following question. First, they have to operate most of their data through APIs. I mean, they have to expose their information in a flexible way through APIs. Second, they have to provide APIs to their customers and also to their partners. This allows or make easier to be part of a digital ecosystem, as you have pointed out. Then I think, but the key probably will be for me three points. They have to have full control over the API lifecycle from the inception until the API is in production, and even later on to know how the APIs are performing. This leads us to that they have to be. I like to say that they are the APIs are covered by design. I mean that involves that not only the API life management cycle as a whole, but also to define governance policies, recommendations, best practices. So everything around the APIs should be controlled and monitored. And also don't forget about security. API first company are secure by design, not the companies, the APIs.
On that, before we move to other points, Eric, you mentioned something very interesting there. Companies that are API first, they are ready to expose their APIs to their customers, or actually to their external customers, partners, or even, let's say, third-party developers that build apps for their ecosystem, right? One thing very important that I've been constantly discussing with customers is do build your API as if it was going to be exposed externally always, even if you're not going to do so, because then your APIs are ready and they are ready to be very quickly exposed as the composition of a product, of a digital product, for example. And that's something very interesting when it comes to, so you mentioned about the change from monolith to more microservices based approach that would then enable APIs to be quickly exposed. And I think that this ties in with the same kind of mindset, right? So you are implementing our APIs. We are designing all your APIs, thinking that potentially that can become a product that an end consumer can consume, or that a partner can easily consume. And then you are always ready, and you are not just, okay, I have something here, it's internal. Now I need to get the team reviewing from a business standpoint, from a technical standpoint, what I need to do to make this API available. And I think that this is one of the key differentiators when it comes to the API first company. So they do have that mindset of my services will be exposed ultimately to someone that it's not just my internal organization. I think that's a very interesting aspect of the API first approach. Good point. Good point. Um, I I have something here that I want to mention as well. Um, so we discussed about the characteristics, right? But also there is this question: who's benefiting from API first? What are the industries or the companies that are making this approach, let's say, tangible? And personally, and I would like your comments as well. I've been seeing a huge transformation in the financial services industry, especially with the adoption of open banking. I know that banking or payment industries, they still have their old monolith applications, their architectures that are in place, and let's be honest, let's be fair here. They're just going to throw everything away tomorrow and start building microservices. Um, but I do see more and more corporations thinking that everything can be created, can be exposed as an API. I know that some of the these regulations that come, like open banking, PSD2 in Europe, they do force the institutions to build APIs. But on the other hand, they also open this mindset of, yeah, I can build an API to comply with the regulation, but I also have some other interesting products that I can make them digital. I can expose to my partners. I can white label services that I'm just doing myself. And then I can actually spread my services throughout the network that I wouldn't do before. Um, I see a lot of movements in the manufacturing, retailing industries as well. When it comes to the creation of marketplaces, so it's B2B that ultimately will reach out to the end consumer, but you have this big, massive network of partners. I can take a good example here, Amazon, right? They have built, they started selling books, and nowadays they also sell books because they open their marketplace. And behind the scenes, they have plenty of APIs. And if you have your CRM, your application, whatever, if it's something that you built in house, if you want, you can connect your applications with Amazon and you sell your products there. Everything powered by APIs. So more and more, the this retail industry, it's taking over the market. This mindset of APIs, building APIs, connecting with the open banking ecosystem, open finance, and white labeling payments as well. Mark, do you see any other industries that are, you know, oh, Eric, apologies, my goodness. Do you see any other industries that are, coming up with good ideas, good benefits from the API first approach, apart from the ones that we're.
Yeah, I'll take a crack at that, Gibson. One of the so as you know, I work mostly in financial services, which is banking, insurance, and payments. But here's what. Let me give you a nice example from the insurance industry. So the insurance industry is not necessarily confronted with regulatory demands where they have to open. There's no thing that I've seen anyway that says open insurance is a regulatory demand. So one would think that insurance companies don't necessarily think API first. What I've actually found is that's not the case. In fact, insurance companies are one of the boldest companies, and they take, quite frankly, the biggest initiatives and the biggest innovations in API first. But the reason we don't see it so much is because it's not public facing, consumer facing. It's actually about the ecosystem of partners. So if you're a health provider, you need to talk to the health or a health insurer, do health insurance. You have to talk to the health providers. That's not, you're not going to have your APIs open to the public. You're going to have your APIs open to a particular set of partners, doctors or health providers and such. If you're doing benefits administration as an insurance company, you have to connect to the folks that do HR, human resource type applications, Workday and such. So what I see actually in the insurance space is they are working as fast, if not faster, than the banks. It's just you don't see it as much. And I think that's a little bit of what we see in, say, supply chain management. I think everybody's heard something, with the COVID situation and the economic slowdown. A lot of it's attributed to supply chain problems. And what I would suggest is in the past, where there have been some investments in interconnecting suppliers and manufacturers, I think this is a wake-up call. We're going to start to see suppliers really innovate in their supply chain and connecting partners digitally. As opposed to the old file transfer EDI, I think you're going to start to see adoption of things like APIs. You're going to see, for lack of a better word, not just the just-in-time supply chain, but the real-time supply chain. And I think that's going to be enabled through API first. So those are two things that I think are not necessarily forefront in the literature and in some of the articles. But from my experience, this is where I see some of the greatest innovation actually occurring.
Good.
Yeah, I also would like to take the part of here. I think that API or digital ecosystems are we tend to analyze it in the private sector, but also in the public sector there is a high impact or a potential high impact of APIs. For example, in higher education, in university, there are some universities that are moving forward, or they are under a digital transformation project. Because they are facing now some challenges. Some of them are due, for example, or the pandemic, or not pandemic could not be the main cause, but probably this digital open everywhere, open everything is also pushing universities to move forward and take action. Because of that, they have to attract students all over the world. They have to get involved in open science projects or open libraries, or they have to try to engage students, and not also students, but also professors, researchers. So moving to an open conception of the university is now paramount for them to remain competitive.
So is it fair to say that if we can kind of, not summarizing, but the reasons that the companies in general are moving to this API first approach is regulation, it's opportunity, it's also the word I'm looking for here. It's not actually opportunity, but it's the moment to engage. So it's engagement, either with partners, way to connect with new partners, or way to attract, engage students, attract new audience, for example. Um, do you also think that of course, I think that still for a while we'll be talking about the pandemic. The pandemic did accelerate these processes as well, of course. Digital transformations, it's a common word nowadays, right? But do we think that the benefits that these companies are going to take, it does go beyond the opportunity of, okay, now I need to go digital because the pandemic it's requiring me to do that. So do you think that the companies do see the benefits going beyond just the pandemic, Eric, in your
Yeah,
experience?
Yeah, I'll go through a few examples. I think the benefits the benefits are, as I mentioned earlier, agility, speed, and those type of things. But I think what I'm finding is industries that move, or organizations that move into the API world and become API first, I think they find a number of additional benefits. So I'll give you a few simple examples. In financial services, everybody, especially in Europe, more than North America, although we're seeing it now in Canada. In Europe, open banking has taken hold. And I do know at the start of that journey, many of the organizations, the banks, were struggling to figure out, why should I do this? I'm forced to do it, but why should I do this? Now, the interesting thing about it is they did have to do it. The regulators demanded it. But here's actually what ended up happening too, is the banking community exploded. So you see companies like Revolut and a number of the neobanks that, quite frankly, are now huge. They were able to take advantage of the regulatory demand and be able to drive innovation faster. So really what I'm seeing here is, especially in banking, financial services, it's leveling the playing field. The folks that used to be really, really big and had the big, skyscrapers and the branches everywhere, when you had open banking, an API first initiative, make no mistake about it, all of a sudden, all the banks were, at least in the eyes of the consumer and the folks that wanted to integrate with them, they were all the same size. You all had to meet the same requirements. So what we found in what I see anyway in the banking community is, for those that did it and accepted it and thought it was a source of innovation, those that were bold actually found tremendous benefits above and beyond the normal agility, speed, and cost reduction. And I don't want to trivialize that. What I've seen in my experience is cost reductions of at least 40 to 50%. Okay. Being able to bring products to market twice, 3 times as fast. Those are tangible benefits, but those pale in comparison to, if you look at Revolut, for example, or some of the neobank market value, they're not just billion-dollar unicorns; they're $10 billion unicorns. So what I'm seeing here is, why are companies becoming API first? Well, some of them have to, but almost all of them realize that if you look at this as opposed to a regulatory demand, but a business opportunity, and approach it in a bold way, there is huge opportunity, because, like I said, it levels the playing field. And what that really means is, to be honest with you, the big players need to worry a little bit more than the small ones. The smaller players have an opportunity to grow bigger, at least look bigger, as a result of being open or API first. Now, the last thing I would mention is, I don't want to underestimate the value of the digital ecosystem, because we talk, at least in financial services, we think of API first being open banking or open finance. But again, I think today probably 80 to 90% of the APIs that are out there, outside of the ones that are internal, are really partner facing. So the whole digital ecosystem is something that is growing leaps and bounds. Gibson, I think you mentioned Amazon as an example. Started as a bookstore, became the world's largest cloud vendor, all because Jeff Bezos says his infamous command, I suppose, or mandate, was that everything will be an API. Everything will be API enabled. And one can see, their stock value went from $14 to $3,500 or something today. And that's all about the digital ecosystem. It's about connecting partners. Cloud is not necessarily, although individuals like me and you probably can use it, but ultimately, cloud is about the business to business interaction facilitated by somebody providing APIs to make complex infrastructure really, really easy to use. That's why I see companies doing it, because it's easier, it's better, offers speed, but really it's an opportunity to differentiate themselves and grow their market.
Yeah, very good one. Really good. Um, You mentioned Revolut and the other small banks seeing this as a big opportunity. I'm joining a congress next week. And one of the things that we are going to discuss is about inclusion. And normally when we talk about inclusion, we always think about the end consumer being able to access services in an easier way, in a smoother way. But I also think that the inclusion involves the small players of the ecosystem that have the opportunity to grow and then become maybe not as big as the big banks, the big payment companies, but big enough to sustain their growth for long period of time. Uh, David, I do have a question for you. One of the things, when it comes to API first, it's the consumption of APIs, right? So it's providing your partners, like Eric mentioned, or your the developers, internal developers, a good experience consuming your APIs. So what exactly it's your point of view in terms of the developer experience? How important do you think this is to increase the API first adoption?
Is absolutely key. Think that developers are the ones that are adding value to your APIs because they are the responsible of building applications and services on top of them. So if you have your devs happy, it would be better for you because they will be, a developer is a very creative person. So if they are happy and feel comfortable with your APIs, your documentation, your everything, for sure they will create some new services applications on top of your APIs that will contribute to enhance your customer experience. So developer experience is really key. So that's why having a good developer portal with use cases, examples of code, documentation up to date, some space to make testing, being able to lower the time for to first hello, which is a kind of measure of the performance of your APIs. So it measures how easy is to develop the famous hello world using your APIs is key.
Yeah, Gibson, if I could, I just want to comment
Absolutely.
on what David mentioned. David, I think you're spot on. In fact, I think one of the most critical questions that a company needs to ask is really how do I ensure that the developer experience is outstanding? And David said it correctly, absolutely correctly. I can't emphasize this more. The developers actually are the consumers of the APIs that you're building. And if the developers don't have a great developer experience, they're not going to be coming back to you. So let me give you one example that I see. So as I mentioned, I do a lot of work in financials, in particular in payments. And although this company Stripe is not a client of mine, I'd love it if they were. But the company here that I'm going to mention is Stripe, and I only say that because it's a very public example. So it's not a it's a $90 billion company is the estimated market value. They're not a public company yet; they have not IPO'd. But here's the interesting thing about Stripe is they built their reputation and their capability, and this is a the statement from their both. They have co-CEOs, I think they're brothers. They have said time and time again, and you can look it up on the internet and Google, they are developer obsessed. Okay, and here's why: is because Stripe provides APIs to let merchants connect and make payments really, really simple. And I've worked in payments for a long time. Payments is not a simple business domain. It is very complex, and there's a lot of knowledge that needs to be had if you want to actually execute payments. Stripe made it simple, and they made it simple by obsessing over the developer experience. In fact, they do everything from every time they actually put out a release, and they're very public about it because I actually subscribe to the Stripe developer newsletters and all that kind of stuff. They actually have published their release notes. They publish their roadmap. And before anything actually goes live, they seek feedback from the developer community.
And the community.
They have forums. They have meetups. And all this is there to ensure that developers can actually consume and use their APIs. And the results speak for themselves. They are one of the most exciting payments companies in the world today. They are one of the fastest growing payments companies today. And you know how they did it? By being API first and developer obsessed. Now, there's a few key pieces of the puzzle. David, I think you mentioned these, but there's a few things that I think have really brought it to life for me is, and I'd welcome your feedback, David, as an expert in this area. But one of the things I've seen is this notion of an API marketplace. So if I go to Stripe, I can go to look at their API documentation, and that API, all their APIs and their specifications are in a marketplace or a developer portal. When you think of that part of it, how important is that developer portal for your clients, David and Gibson?
It's really key. I'm a developer, so when I think that when you are designing the developer portal, that you have to take in consideration two key points. One of them is how I'm going to engage the developer. Not only providing resources, that also key is the second point, but also how I'm going to create a community around the API, because developers we love social relationships. Although some people think that we are kind of freaky, yeah, also they are true, but we love social media and social meetings. So meetups, for example, it's really nice. I attend as much as meetups I can relate it with APIs or open finance, open data, open whatever, you know. So that would be key. Also, the having a good developer portal with a lot of resources, and also trying to engage to create a community on top of that. I think that is definitely key. I like so much what you have said, Eric, about that. The customers are developers, because we tend to think as customers only the end customers, and that's not the truth here. We have before to reach the end customer, you have to engage developer, and then to reach the end user. And I think that this is an important feature also of an API first company.
Yeah, David, it's I can't agree more. That's exactly what I see out there. So when I see developer portals, sometimes and I call them marketplaces, but where you put your APIs, I see a lot of companies sometimes make a mistake where all they do is the minimum requirement, the minimum set of APIs, and all you can do is look at the specifications. Whereas the potential with the tools and the capability today is, you can look at this almost as, do with your API portal what Amazon does with their stores. Is I should be able to search, find, and I should be able to, once I find the thing I'm looking for, I should be able to click on it, and I should be able to see the whole specification. I should be able to then, see examples of the requests or examples of the response. I should be able to see examples of the error codes and the stuff that comes back. But that's I would say if you can do that, you're probably only average. Okay. But here's what I see as a best practice. And David, I welcome, and Gibson, your feedback on this, is when I think of a world-class developer portal, it delivers a world-class developer experience. So it's the one-stop shop. It's the one place that a developer goes to get everything about an API. So what that really means is, sure, I'm going to search and find, and I'm going to click on and see the specification, but I should be able to link directly to a getting started guide. I should be able to directly link to a tutorial. And I should be able to directly link to, get your sandbox instance set up here. And I should be able to have maybe a Postman collection that I could actually use to begin to initiate requests. All of that information, I should actually, as you highlighted, David, and I can't agree more, is we're social animals. Developers are social people. There should be links to our the meetups. There should be links to the forums. There's, and there's a company, anybody who's worked in the event management space, Kafka space, Confluent is another fantastic example of who really does this well. Is if you go to the Confluent developer site, there you get their developer hub, which has all the third-party tools in there that the other folks have built. But you go to the Confluent site and you can actually see their APIs, and you can go to all the summits they've had with all the videos, all the documentation, all the tutorials, all the samples. It just makes developing, hesitate to say a wonderful experience, but it's definitely an easy experience. David, is that what you're seeing with your clients, what your clients are asking for?
If I can comment on that,
Sure.
it is, and I couldn't agree more. I'm actually going to bring an example that depicts everything that you're saying there, David and Eric. So we have this customer called Magi Seguros. It's an insurance company down in Brazil. Their dev portal contains basically everything that you need. They even have videos teaching you not only about APIs, but also about the insurance language. So first, let's learn about insurance. Do you want to know what an API is as well? So we explain what an API is. What is an event? When you should use events? And then there is the whole guide through. This is what you have to do to start connecting to our APIs. Is the walkthrough step by step. Click here, you get a user created. Click there, you get your sandbox set up. You get your tokens, your everything you need. So providing this kind of experience does give the API developers that idea that you're saying there, Eric. It's the one-stop shop that I may have an issue here and there because I'm trying to connect. But oh, by the way, within my dev portal, I can also create a ticket to ask a question, to understand what am I doing wrong or what is not working properly. So I think it's indeed the one-stop shop. It's the place that you'll find all the information you need and the channels that you need to connect to the people that will support you to develop your app, your integration. Guys, I know that we could continue this conversation over and over the time here. It's a topic that it's nearly, I wouldn't say endless, but we can spend quite a good time here. But of course, we have to close it. First of all, I would like to thank you, Eric, for joining us today in our very first jam session. Really appreciate it. Your contribution. It's great, always good. So for those who are watching us, you get links to connect to Eric. Thank you very much. Thanks for the audience as well for taking the time to watch us to see what we have to say here. Eric, please.
Yeah. Gibson and David, thank you very much for allowing me to participate in this wonderful jam session. I'll just close with a few really quick comments here. Hopefully, the audience has recognized that API first is here. And it's something that you probably need to start. In fact, most people are probably starting to think about it. But my point is, I think you need to not just think about it, but accelerate the journey. Because here's the bottom line: is if you're bold, you can be first, and if you're first, you can be API first. And I think that offers tremendous opportunity, benefits to the company in general, but also to their customers and their business partners. So. That's how I would leave this. It's a fantastic opportunity and great for the audience.
Great. David, thank you very much as well. Really
I'm
good
more
to
than
have you.
happy more than happy being here with these two cracks, you and Eric. So for me, it's a pleasure.
Thank you. And I was taking some notes here just to do a nice closure. So we talked about the API first companies, how they're doing, what exactly they are, and the change from monolith to API. Also about creating APIs that are exposable not only internally but also externally. that are ready to be exposed to partners. We also quickly discussed about what companies need to do to become API first. So answering some questions. So are you really API first? Are you exposing data? Are you exposing your data to your partners, to your consumers? Do you have full control of your API lifecycle? So do you really understand what your APIs are doing, or are you just exposing something out there? We also talked a bit about the industries, like insurance companies that are doing something behind the scenes that we don't even see, but it's a great opportunity for them. Of course, banking pushed by regulations, but still they are doing API. They're changing their approach to the API first initiatives. And David also mentioned about the higher education, which seeing the benefits of bringing APIs and to actually innovate to attract more people, more students, more to actually broaden their ecosystem, connecting to other universities even. And we also discussed a bit about the benefits, the agility, the business opportunities behind API. So it's not just a technical asset, right? But it's a business asset. So it's about exposing your business to your consumers. Uh, and very well mentioned. So Eric, you mentioned about Revolut and also about the inclusion that we were discussing. Small banks, small players can actually grow and become $10 billion unicorns. Oh my goodness, what a dream. And we just closed with developer experience, which is maybe one of the key aspects of a successful API initiative. With that closing statements, I'd like to again thank you all for joining us. Uh, Follow us on LinkedIn. You'll be able to see what are the next sessions that we are planning. We have more of these good conversations, good chats about API and how you can benefit from it. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here. See you next time. Have a good one.